Hello and welcome to Academic English, Week 2, Day 1. This week we are going to talk about pronunciation issues. Today we are mainly going to focus on consonants, and the next time we'll focus more on vowels and word stress, and along with that, rhythm and intonation. Let's talk first about expectations. You do not have to sound like a native speaker. That is not necessary and not realistic. Being a perfectionist is not realistic when it comes to learning a language. Perfectionism, 완벽주의, that is not necessary. Many people speak English as a second language. In fact, more people in the world speak English as their second language, and so a majority of people who speak English in the world speak English with some kind of an accent: Korean, Chinese, Russian, French, or other accent. That's fine. What's important is pronouncing it just well enough that you can be understood, that other people can understand you. A perfect accent is not necessary or realistic. Comprehension is making sure that people can understand you. That's all. It is not necessary to sound anything like a native speaker as long as people understand you. Speaking English with a Korean or Chinese accent is totally fine. It's totally cool. It means you speak a second language, and that's wonderful. As long as people can understand you, as long as you're understood, comprehensible, that's enough. It is probably not possible to really make a lot of improvement in pronunciation over one semester. So in these lessons, I'm just going to help you to understand what the major issues are for you learning English pronunciation so that you can work on these on your own. We'll talk about the main problems that East Asians have with consonants and vowels and stress in English, and I can make you aware of the issues, and you can start practicing and working on these some on your own if you like. It will take more than one semester to make significant progress, and that's kind of up to you. Maybe for some of you, you will need to use English on the job or for further studies, and you should practice this. For some of you, maybe speaking English will be less important, and that's okay. But if you really want to or need to improve your English pronunciation, we'll talk about the main things you can be aware of. You can then practice on your own. I'll give you a few materials here, and you can also practice on your own by listening to English media and practicing with that, your favorite popular songs, rock songs, your favorite TV shows or movies. You can practice along with that, listening, and then maybe practicing parts of dialogue from videos or practicing songs. So, again, let's think about the question I left with you last time. Think about this for a minute. Pause the video, think for a minute. What pronunciation difficulties do you think you have in English? Are you aware of the pronunciation difficulties that you have? What problems do you think you have? Okay, first, I have provided a handout. It is the pronunciation unit from my book. It is a PDF that I've provided on Blackboard for you. There's a link in the email that I sent you. First, take a look at page 57. Practice these sentences with a friend, with a partner, with somebody. Take maybe 10 minutes or so and try to find out what problems Korean or Japanese or Chinese speakers might have with these words and these sentences, what kind of misunderstandings could happen. So spend a few minutes practicing these and try to think about what words, what kinds of sounds are more difficult for East Asian speakers and why they are difficult. Okay, I hope you had fun doing that. I'm actually going to come back later to page 57 and go through and explain the particular difficulties. But first, I need to teach you about how sounds are made in English, beginning with the consonant sounds. So we're going to learn about how different sounds are made in your mouth. So we're going to skip to page 58, and on the top half of page 58, there is a diagram of the organs or parts of your mouth that are used for speaking. And I want you to try to spend a few minutes, pause the video, spend a few minutes, and try to guess where different consonant sounds are made in the mouth, English and Korean, or if you're Chinese, then Chinese sounds. Try to guess where in the mouth they are made and how they are made in the mouth. So pause the video, spend a few minutes practicing playing with different consonant sounds, different words. Try to guess how and where they are made. Okay, next task for you, I'll come back to this and explain this in a minute. The bottom of the page, at the bottom of page 58, I have a comparison of English and Korean consonants that are kind of similar, but they are actually different. If you don't know how these are different, this can cause you to have that stereotypical Konglish accent. So take a look at these, pause the video, look at these for a minute, try to guess how these English and Korean sounds are different. Okay, we're back. Well, I'm going to explain to you now how sounds are made in the mouth, the consonant sounds. If you look at the top of page 59, I've kind of classified different consonant sounds according to how they are made. You notice 1A and 1B, that's one set of consonants. Then you have 2A and 2B, and I want to focus on those. Look at these for a minute. What is the basic difference between the sounds in columns 1A and B versus the ones in 2A and B? And then compare 2A and 2B. What's different about those sounds? What is different about 2A and 2B? Okay, hopefully you have guessed that the sounds in 1A and 1B, these are made by a speech organ, a part of your mouth, stopping and then releasing the airflow of your mouth. And these are called stop consonants. These generally are not too hard for you, I think. These are similar to sounds in Korean. Pa, ba, ta, da, pa, ba. Your lips are stopping the airflow and then releasing the air. There's a stop, release. Ta, da, kind of with the tongue, and what we call the gum ridge. So your gums are sort of a fleshy material, and then back behind here is this gum ridge, and your tongue is using that. Ka, ga, it's in the back of your mouth. The sounds in columns 2A and 2B are created differently. There's not a full stop of the airflow, but rather two different speech organs like your tongue and some surface are coming close together, and the air is being forced through a more narrow passage, and that creates friction. These are friction sounds, friction consonants. And so these are created by friction. F, v, and s, z. Okay, those are friction sounds. Although the very last row, the cha, ja, is a little different. We'll come back to that. those are friction sounds. And some of these do not exist in Korean, or they're a little different. Now, what is the difference between 2A and 2B? F, V, S, Z. What's the difference? Did you guess? What is the difference? If not, pause the video and think. Okay, did you figure it out? Put your hand on your throat and say the S. Now say the Z. Z, Z. Do you feel the difference? S, Z, S, Z, S, Z. They're different. How? This is a crucial difference in English. This is what makes sounds completely different. Down here you have your vocal cords, or glottis, and they're basically a couple flaps of tissue, and they can kind of spread apart and let the air go through, like S, or they can come closer together and the air can set them into motion, vibration. Zzz. So it's just vibrating a couple of thousand times a second, Zzz, like that. That's your Z. Okay, that's your, we call that voicings from the vocal cords, or your voice box, and we call that kind of sound voicing. So Z is a voiced consonant, S is a voiceless or unvoiced consonant. And that's how we distinguish these pairs. F, V, S, Z, Sh, Z. So actually some older Koreans have trouble with the Z sound because they weren't taught very well. And it's actually not hard though. The position of everything in your mouth is exactly the same. S, Z. The position of your tongue and what it's doing, exactly the same. Your tongue isn't really touching, it's coming close to that gum ridge area and it's creating friction. But for Z, there's vibration coming from your vocal cords. Z, Z. Okay, that's the difference between bus and buzz. It makes a difference. Ice, eyes makes a difference. C, Z. Okay. Fussy, fuzzy. It makes a difference. It's an important difference in English. So this voicing makes an important difference. F, V, lips and teeth. F, V is voiced. By the way, the letter is V, not V, as many Koreans have been taught. It's just V, because L is not a sound in English. V, the V sound. Now, the two sounds with the TH sounds, those are kind of hard. You may have been taught to stick your tongue out, but we usually don't. That's not really polite. It's the tongue tip behind the teeth. So this is your front teeth, and then your tongue tip is just maybe a millimeter behind your front teeth, usually, and you're creating friction. You don't create a lot of friction. These are pretty soft sounds. They're much softer than F or S, the F or S sounds, or V, Z, Z sounds. They're much softer, a little harder to hear because you don't have as much energy here. But it's your tongue tip behind the front teeth, and you have no friction for like theater, and you have friction for the, like this, or the. You have friction for that one. They're both spelled TH, which is confusing, but one is voiceless, one's voice. Try it. Not that hard, although these sounds are not really common in the world's languages, but maybe not more than 10% of the world's languages have these sounds. Now, when you learn new words in college, and if you see the TH sound, most academic words with TH are from Greek. And in Greek, it's the voiceless sound. So you can kind of guess, if it's a new word you're learning in a class, you can guess it's probably the th sound and not the th, because most often it's a Greek th sound. It's a little tip. Next we have the sh, zh sound, and sh is voiceless, zh is voiced. Sh, zh, sh, zh. The zh is less common in English and less important. And then we have the ch, j, the ch like cherry and the j like judge. So these two pairs, sh, zh, ch, j, are made with the tongue bent back more. So, I don't know if you guessed the difference in the Korean. So let's come back to the chart at the bottom of page 58. You see the she and the Korean she. So first of all, these are different. Okay, so you see, first of all, the z, like cheese. So in English, it's a z. So in Korean, you say cheese, but it's not. The z involves the tongue touching the top of the mouth, but in English, z like cheese, jazz, the z in jazz, it's just a z, just like in s. The tongue doesn't touch, but it comes a few millimeters or maybe a millimeter from the gum ridge and creates friction, but there's no touching. She in English versus she in Korean. So this is where it gets interesting. Do you hear the difference? She, she. The English she, the Korean she. In Korean, your tongue is flat, she, and is creating friction. But in English, your tongue is bent up and going back to the upper part of the mouth is kind of pointing toward the upper part of the mouth, toward the roof of the mouth, as we say. She, the English she, your tongue is bent back like that and creating friction here. In Korean, it's she, your tongue is flat and creating friction kind of more like here. English is tongue tip, she, and that's the difference. Z is not the same as jiet, and the she is not the same as she in Korean. A little different. Bend your tongue up and create friction here for the English sounds. So we have the she and then the zh, which is just like the sh and she, but with voicing. Zh, like decision. So this zh is not so common in English. You mainly see it in words with sion, like vision, decision. And you see it in words from French, like beige, pleasure, garage. Next you see the ch-j sound. The ch-j sound. That is not the same as the Korean jiet. In English, so these sounds are kind of a combination of a stop and friction, like a t and a sh, ch, and a d, zh, j. Again, your tongue is bent up like this for the English. So, for example, in cheetah, your tongue is bent up and touching, making contact, and then creating that friction. It's a stop friction sound. Cheetah. But in Korean, your tongue is flat for the cheetah. And English, judge. So with voicing, judge. It's not judgy. We don't create that extra consonant at the end. It's judge. And it's easy to do that, right, if you're using your tongue like this. Judge. So, if you compare these Korean and English sounds at the bottom of page 58, cheese, just a z sound, no touching, compared to the Korean cheese. She, and Korean she. Okay. Beige, and versus the Jew in Korean. Judge, judge. Church, or cheetah. Okay. Bath, mouse, like your computer mouse. These and she is different. You can hear the difference between the English and the Korean. I've got a summary on page 59 of the different sounds. There are some other sounds. You don't need to worry about those. Those are not hard. Columns 3, 4, and 5, mostly voice sounds, but they're not hard. We don't need to worry about those. Okay, let's look at some words where this makes a difference. When you have these kinds of sounds at the end of words, and there's some examples on page 60. Sh, as in the end of fish. It's fish, not fishy, but fish. And you can do it if you properly curl your tongue up. Fish. You can end the word with sh. So these are some sounds that can be 받침 in English, final sounds, but not in Korean. And so you may need to practice with these. Fish. We say English, not Englishy. That's not Englishy, that's 공대시. English. And also the zh, beige, not beige, but beige. So it's a zh, no contact, zh. Tongue like this. Ch, like church, not churchy, but church. Tongue curled up. J, like in judge, not judgy, but judge. Tongue curled up. And it makes a difference, for example, in these sentences here in these words below. So think about it rained cats and dogs. It's an idiom. It means it rained a lot. Cats. The S is pronounced like S, but dogs, more like a Z. Why? T is voiceless. Dog, g. G is voiced. G. You can feel it. So the S ending becomes voiced also. Dogs, dogs, cats and dogs. So if a word ends in a voiced sound and you put an S ending on it, the S will become voiced also. Number 2, he looked at her eyes. Sounds romantic. I is a vowel. I, voiced. And so the S becomes voiced. Eyes. And he looked at her ice. Doesn't sound romantic. Maybe there's a bug in her drink. Ice. I have dry eyes. I have dry ice. It's different. These are different words. So it's important. Even at the end of words, we keep that voicing. Eyes. So, pause the video. Practice these for a few minutes. Page 60. Okay, page 61, we have some more special cases. USE, is it pronounced use or use? Well, both. Use is a noun. I have no use for that. Noun, 명사, use, voiceless. There are a few words in English where you change it to voiced. Use, I need to use it. Use, it's voiced. This doesn't sound like a Z. Abuse, abuse, verb, noun. Mouth, this thing, 명사. Mouth, to mouth as a verb, 동사, means to kind of exaggerate your mouth movements, like maybe when you're learning to act or speak. The actor is mouthing every word. He's exaggerating his mouth movements. Teeth, like this, teeth, to teeth, though, is a verb. When babies have kind of sore teeth and they need to chew on things, it's teething pains. And their teeth are sore and they're hurting and they have to chew on something for the pain. So there are some words here I want you to practice. These homographs, words that are written the same but sounded differently. So practice these, try to guess. Nouns tend to be voiceless, the verbs tend to be voiced. So pause the video, practice for a minute. Okay, next we have some tongue twisters, starting at the bottom of page 61. Tongue twisters, these are, you probably know some Korean tongue twisters. These are words, sentences that are kind of hard to say because of confusing and similar consonant sounds. These are some famous English tongue twisters, and I want you to practice these. So you need to pause the video, practice these with a partner, with a friend, with somebody. Try to say them as quickly as you can. In fact, when English-speaking kids, American, British kids learn tongue twisters, we try to say them 3 times fast. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. I don't expect you to do that, but I want you to practice these tongue twisters. Kind of fun, good way to practice your consonants, practice your tongue position. And after we do the vowels next time, come back to the tongue twisters and practice them again. So that's your task, your assignment for now. Pause the video and practice all the tongue twisters. And after you pause, we'll come back and I will recite them for you. Okay, did you enjoy the tongue twisters? Okay, in case you had any trouble with them, I will say them for you. Number 1, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear was Fuzzy Wuzzy, but Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. So he wasn't fuzzy, was he? So was he bear? And number 2, very famous one, Peter Pike, a peck, by the way, is kind of an old container, so it's kind of like a measure also. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Number 3, maybe you've heard this, ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. Number 4, the big black bug bit the big black bear, but the big black bear bit the big black bug back. Number 5, there's a WH spelling. It used to be a different sound in English, but today not anymore. It used to be like which, but today it's just a W, which. So if 2 witches would watch 2 watches, which witch would watch which watch? Number 6, Betty bought her but some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it'll make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my bitter batter better. So she bought some better butter, better than the bitter butter, and put it in her bitter batter, and made her bitter batter better. So it was better that Betty bought her but some better butter. By the way, you notice that the T in American English, if it's before a vowel sound or a syllable with no stress, no stress, it's a bit more like a duh, Betty bought her. In British, they would say Betty bought her. It's kind of a soft T. In American English, Canadian English, Betty bought her, bought some butter. It's not important that you talk like that, like butter. You can say butter, more British style, and that's fine. It's not important that you talk like that, but you should know whenever you hear the T sound in American English, like American songs or videos, movies, TV shows, it sounded like that all the time. Between vowels or before an unstressed vowel, it's like that. It's sort of a soft D-like sound, or might even sound like to you like the Korean real a bit. Number 7. Same case with the soft T. How much myrtle would a wood turtle hurdle if a wood turtle could hurdle myrtle? A wood turtle would hurdle as much myrtle as a wood turtle could hurdle if a wood turtle could hurdle myrtle. Hurdle is jump over, and myrtle is a type of plant. Number 8, famous one, Sally sells seashells by the seashore. So if Sally sells seashells by the seashore, where are the seashells that Sally sells? Number 9, thin sticks, thick bricks. 10, 3 free throws. Number 11, I think this myth is a mystery to me. 12, Cassie threw Kathy a thick math book. 13, Thelma sells thick thistles near the theater. 14, I think he thinks he'd rather get married when he's 33 years old. 15, is this your sister's 6th zither, sir? It's hard. Is this your sister's 6th zither, sir? Is this your sister's 6th zither, sir? Zither is an old musical instrument. 16, 3 free thugs set 3 thugs free. 3 free thugs set 3 thugs free. That's hard. 17, R's, all roads lead to Rome. 18, Richard's wretched ratchet wrench. Richard's wretched ratchet wrench. Number 19, the rice grows near the river. The rice grows near the river. 20, clean yellow clams crammed in clean red cans. How can a clam cram into a clean cream can? A little hard. Clean yellow clams crammed in clean red cans. How can a clam cram into a clean cream can? It is hard. 21, round and round the rugged rocks the ragged rascal ran. Round and round the rugged rocks the ragged rascal ran. 22, there are 33,000 feathers on the thrush's throat. There are 33,000 feathers on the thrush's throat. 23, ah shucks, the 6 stick shift stuck shut. That's hard. Ah shucks, that's kind of like aigu, kind of southern U.S. Saturi dialect slang, ah shucks. Most people don't say that anymore. Ah shucks, the six stick shift stuck shut. Ah shucks, the 6 stick shift stuck shut. The 6 stick shift stuck shut. 24, this is considered the hardest tongue twister in English. The 6 shakes 6 sheep sick. The 6 shakes 6 sheep sick. The 6 shakes 6 sheep sick. 25, I think she should sit. So again, in Korean, the S before the E becomes she, that kind of friction sound, but not in English. It's still an S. So I think she should sit, I think she should sit, I think she should sit. So be careful with that. You don't want to get into trouble. Okay. I think that's all the fun for now. I will say some more about vowels next time. Then we will come back to page 57 and I'll go through the problems that Koreans have and explain a little bit more about consonants and some more about vowels next time, as well as word stress. Okay, hope you've had fun. See you next time.